And welcome to another episode of the Great Deception Podcast. I'm your host, Matt. Thanks for joining me. Tonight we got a great episode on hand. My man Casey's here to join us. I will introduce him here in a minute. But first, I want to thank the newest patron, L. Thanks for joining the patron. It's much appreciated, hon. Guys, if you want to help out the show, patreon.com/the Great Deception Podcast. You get all the Monday Night Master Debater videos there. This video will be up there eventually because we will be sharing some really cool videos, maybe pictures too, mainly pictures. But I'm not using YouTube anymore. I'm sick of the fucking censorship. So we're gonna put all the videos up free on Patreon. So go get them. So let's welcome the man, the myth, the legend, the Golden Gate Starfort Command. Casey, what's
What
up, brother?
what is happening, man? Freaking stoked to talk to you again.
Dude, I've been stalking your IG for like the last 2 months because it was just gold when you were over in Europe, man. What was that like?
Dude, it was it's hard to fucking say, man. It was so epic and like it was everything I expected it to be. And that was everything that I wanted it to be. So it was just incredible, man. It was incredible. I had a ton of free time and I just walked around and took pictures and
What was the
just
energy like over there?
um it's it's weird. It's some places, have killer energy, and I don't know, I didn't
I mean,
it was
okay, let me put it this way. Did you notice any different energies around any of the old buildings or anything? And in any of the
well,
old cities or
I
anything
mean,
like that?
yeah. I mean, definitely, like, for sure, dude. Like, I mean, I was like getting chills just walking around, like, I turn a corner and just come across like this giant Gothic cathedral, that like we've all seen thousands of pictures of, and like talked about and examined, and it's like boom right there, and I just came across it, randomly, and check it out, and then like walk another block and see another one like a few blocks away, so go to that. Like there was, so yeah, in that sense, for sure, there was like serious energies there for sure. Like I think a lot of stuff is possibly turned on in one way or another to describe it.
Yeah,
But
I'm with you.
a lot is it's every we all are taught that everything there is so old, but like it's actually not. The stuff that's built and surviving is not actually that old. It's like all 1890s, 1880s, it's the same old story, and I knew that's how it was going to be. And it was like, from what I've seen, I have plenty of evidence of it. It'll be, and you go to this place, and it'll have a tiny little plaque where it was like, this is where the prison was in 1200, it's long gone now. These are student housing apartments, and it's like some total brick building, or like, huge stone building, you know what I mean? There's like tons of that stuff. It's just like, yep, it's the same over here. It's the same in England as it is back home,
And
you
that's
know.
what I've never been to Europe, but from what I hear is, yeah, there's all this tale of it being so old. And granted, there's some old cathedrals and such that are left, but they're relics like around here. But the majority of the old buildings are from like the 18th and 19th century.
Totally. And there's
So
lots of recreations too. Like Manchester was supposedly built on this Roman fort from like one AD or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, first of all, it's just crazy to just be dropping dates like that. But they only found it, like, they didn't find it that long ago, like maybe in the last 40, 50 years or something,
wow.
maybe a little more. And so that, they found huge foundations underneath, part of the city. and then they've built these walls to recreate what it might have looked like. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much of that kind of stuff, and it's so easy to read between those lines when, you're reading the plaque and you see it say, you know, this is what it may have looked, this is what it may have looked like, or we believe this, that's
Yeah.
just, them
Or this
bullshitting.
building was founded.
Oh yeah, totally. Found
I
dead.
love those because it's little
Yeah,
there, but to those who don't understand and haven't been looking into stuff, they don't see that. It goes right over their head as a good magician's trick would, right? I mean, that's the
yeah,
whole this is a giant deception.
totally.
And look behind me, that whole Chicago fair, that was a giant deception, right?
Big
It
time.
was it was a game. It was one of their little acts in their play. And dude, yeah, I was just dude, I can't imagine what it's like to see those old buildings in person and just be on those grounds. My thing is I've been talking with some local people, and I'm like, man, we gotta find a way to find like the cool old cathedrals or the cool oldest buildings and just let's go investigate.
Dude, I think that's like one of the most important things we can do is just go get our eyeballs on things and just walk around and see it, like that was one of the things that really um like bought me into like when I got into Tartaria and this whole like rewriting of history, was the architecture around the world, the similar architecture. And I already knew, like right when that I heard that, I knew right away because I've been to Europe so many times and seen all this stuff, and it just, it clicked in that moment. And yeah, I was so excited because I hadn't gone over there since the whole shutdown, and so I didn't even know if I was ever going to be able to go over there again. And so this trip was just such an awesome trip. I was so excited for it. I was so grateful to go and see it again. And
And what
it
countries
was,
did you hit up or what cities?
I mean, I was just in England. We were in Scotland and Glasgow.
Yep.
Um, but we did, let's see if I can remember them all, or if, I might even have the tour laminate around here, but we did Newcastle, Leeds, Nottingham, Wolverhampton, Bristol, London.
You did the whole
Uh,
Premier League.
yeah, yeah, we did a bunch of teams, and from the lower leagues too. Um, we did Southampton, Manchester. Manchester was insane, like tons of stuff still there. Um,
That's got to be like a New York or a Chicago,
totally.
type sense from the old style, because you get the mix, like you're saying. You'll have this old historic building, and then right next to it, something from 20 years ago.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the facadism out there. And they are tearing down a lot of stuff. Like Bristol was like I think I counted like 8 or 9 cranes or something like that. And
Yep.
there's a lot of old world stuff there.
Well, and what you mentioned before is something I'm really interested in is the whole building on top of each other, because we know that has gone on in America. That's for certain. I mean,
Yeah,
you look at cities like
100%.
New York City, you look at Kansas City, and some of them, most of the major cities have a significant underground, and it's almost as if it was buried and then just built over. and
Totally.
and it's so amazing because it's
Yeah,
and you're saying the same type thing out there, right? Just
yeah,
using the
absolutely.
old foundation and then putting our touch on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's the same. Yeah, and
So
a lot of stuff has been brought down to the foundation and just built upon and connected to the grid. Or I think they've built a lot to mimic the old world too. I don't know, we'll
yeah,
probably
I'm with you on that because I think, uh, dude, I think they're magicians, right?
totally,
And
yeah,
I think even some of these old buildings are really just newer versions, right? Or, some of these things they tell us are marble. It's just like scagliola. It's concrete with scagliola painted over it to make it look like marble.
Yeah, I mean the trickeries in like in construction and building,
Yep.
that can be done, you know, it is hard. That's why coming back to it is like when you're there and seeing it with your own eyes, like you can tell if it's newer or older most of the time, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
there's a feel, there's a vibe, and there's probably like an energy and a feeling, Pictures are great, and that is like a lot of what we have to go with. But um, you know, it's just so important to look and see and touch it, like it can be a game changer big
Oh,
time.
that's huge. That's really where the difference is made, because we can all look at pictures all day, right? And as
Totally.
I say that, I'm gonna pull up
Yeah,
pictures, and it's like, and you can look at stuff like this and say, we can go look at today, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just an apartment building, but not understanding what was there before, right?
yeah,
and
big time.
and when you go to this generation, and that's why one of the things I've emphasized with my son, he's only 9, is the past, right? And appreciating your history, but also questioning your history, because a lot of what we've been led to believe is bullshit, and we'll get into that tonight for sure. But
Totally.
I want to talk to you about San Francisco and California in general, because you're from there, and we've had some crazy conversations about Starforts and stuff out there, and just going back and forth on some of the World Fair stuff, and just the whole narrative of California and San Francisco in particular has always, just not always, but in the last year, has been something that really confused the hell out of me, because I'm like, hold on. First of all, I knew about the earthquake, right? So we'll just preface it with a little high level history. So what we're told is the Spanish had it, right, until the early 1800s. And then the Mexicans took it over, or late 1700s, early 1800s. Mexicans took it over, and then America takes it from the Mexicans in, 18, I want to say 1840s, around there. Then 1850, we have the gold rush, right? Like 1848 to 50s is when that starts. And then all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, we see cities, right? San Francisco's huge 20 years later, and they're saying populations are obviously growing. I mean, but how do you build at the rate to support this? And then you get into, okay, we find out there's a fire in the 1850s that basically destroyed 18, I think it was 1851, that basically destroyed what little was of San Francisco at the time. And then all of a sudden, okay, they just build. And then they have a World Fair in 1894. I'm like, wait a second, this place has only been around 40 years, 45 years, and it gets a World Fair already. Okay. And then 1906 comes, and this is the one like that doesn't make any sense, because the city is essentially leveled, right, with earthquakes and fires. And
That's what they
then
say.
less than a decade later, they have one of the most beautiful fairs around. These Roman, these Greco-Roman, some Gothic, a little Moorish in the mix. They threw everything they could into this fair in less than 10 years later. So that's kind of the high level of narrative of San Francisco, and some of the key moments that I've come across in what I've been looking at. And I wanted to hear, some of your findings on this wonderfully confusing and interesting narrative, to say the least.
Yeah, man. I mean, like the other thing that really hooked me into this was San Francisco, and I watched a couple, or I came across a couple John Levi videos that he went over San Francisco, and I immediately just watched all of them, and it it really struck me and like made sense to me and clicked with me is because I've spent my whole life in San Francisco. I'm there all the time. Like when the mud flooded windows clicked, I was like, oh my God, those are all over San Francisco. I was like, ding, ding, ding. And so I've been digging into anything and everything San Francisco history and his story as much as possible. And those things you mentioned, the obviously, California becoming a state, the insane population boom, and the quake, or the first, the 1894, um, it Midwinters Fair, and then the quake, and then the 1915 fair, which was kind of the Phoenix Rising. Um, and for me, it symbolizes, the Phoenix rising from the old world.
Well, yeah,
It
and they
was one of
even
their final stamps in destroying the old world in San Francisco, at least like a big section of it, big parts of it,
well, yeah,
definitely.
they said they wanted to make it the jewel city of the West, right? That was
Right.
the whole premise of the 15 fair, was to showcase it as the jewel city of the
Hmm.
West. And
Yeah, that
you
was
look,
another name for it.
yeah, and it's like again, it has that, it had a very Chicago vibe to me, right? Of
Yeah,
the 1893 fair of Chicago, where that this was the great white city, right? And this was essentially the whitening of America, the,
definitely. But
indoctrination
this,
of the, industrial age,
yeah,
right?
the
All that.
savagizing the natives.
Yeah, with the human zoos, right?
Yeah,
They had human zoos at these fucking fairs where they
yeah,
had
man.
people who lived in habitats.
And the 1894 fair is no shortage of that. And actually, that fair was like, I don't know how much they brought from Chicago, but they brought like a lot of the fair from Chicago to the SF in like 6 months.
Yeah, I
The
was gonna
story of that fair
mention
is
that,
insane.
because what's crazy is that's what I found. I started looking at it, and when I started looking at this fair, I'm like, this is insanity, because uh they brought like the spotlight from the fair. They brought all these things, across the country, just for this, you know, midwinter's fair. And it's like, okay, was this the,
It ran for 6 months,
yeah, was this the
and then
passing of the torch, Casey?
well, yeah, I think it was possibly their first attempt to,
because
um,
guys, these pictures I'm showing right now for the people that are watching, this is 1894 in San
yeah,
Francisco.
Golden Gate Park,
Okay.
and
So
there's
mind you,
still, go ahead.
this is 40, a little over 40 years after the start. And, and again, think about how many people there are. There aren't millions of people in California at this time, or at least in San Fran at this time. And this is what they're putting out. Sorry, Case,
Yeah,
go ahead.
no, it's all good. I was just gonna say you can still go. A lot of like the buildings are gone, but like the grounds are still there. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like
can.
this huge tower they had in the middle.
Yeah, that was it was like based on the Eiffel Tower, or maybe it was the same architect or some shit. It would light
Oh,
up.
and the
It
other
would light
thing
up
was
the
they
city.
had the Firth wheel, right? They didn't
Yeah,
have a Ferris wheel, they had a Firth wheel. So it was made by a guy, I can't remember what his first name was, but a gentleman by the name of Firth. And like, look at, this is the landscape. I remember you showed this in one of your posts. This
yeah,
is
that's him
the
grading it.
this is the grounds. This is them grading out the land for the fair, right?
It's
And
laughable.
much like these other fairs, they give us this asinine. Now, what was, I think this
Well,
one
I
was
could
like,
believe that if I could believe that if it took 2 years to build it, But they've opened that thing in 6 months from
yes,
start of construction,
yeah,
6 months, and look at how,
look
like
at
it's like, come
this.
on,
And look what they're using for tools, right? And
yeah,
then let's go back. Now, these are the buildings they're cranking out, guys. Okay. We're
that's a
talking
joke.
about palaces, that they're cranking out in 6 months. I mean, it doesn't add up when you have horses and buggies. And granted, you have lifts, right? They had lifts, but not cranes or anything like
Yeah.
that.
And look at, I mean, that's not even level. You know, see how there's like tiers that going
Yeah,
up of, and
it's
like,
all
so if you go
sloped
back,
and
yeah,
it's like
if
a
you go
golf
back,
course.
it's all flat. Like go back to the square.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that.
Okay, you know, on the side there's that little tier, but I mean, dude, dug out all of that with those
It's and
fucking
you know it's
horses. It's a
crazy,
joke.
Casey. These same photos, not identical, but the same type of photos is what they give us for Chicago.
Totally.
It's like
Yeah.
it's the script that they've built for these is that okay, Chicago, we took 700 acres of swamplands, couple horses and buggies and some manpower, and we landscaped the land, we flattened it out. And same thing, you look at the Chicago pictures, there's no hills. In Jackson Park, there was all sorts of swamps and gullies and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Canals.
that's well, I mean, look at this, guys. This is
Yeah.
1894. They built this
Well,
in
the
6 months.
totally the dude who organized it, that so Michael DeYoung, that was the uh, Palace of Fine Arts. That the
Hmm.
fucking so
And
Michael
that's the one
DeYoung,
building that survived, right?
it
Initially.
did, yeah, but it's completely rebuilt now, and I can show a picture in a minute. So
Oh yeah.
it's an inverted pyramid now.
Oh,
Back
beautiful.
then,
Why
back
not,
then,
Case?
yeah, dude, back then had the pyramid. Now it's inverted. And so Michael DeYoung, I believe, was on the Chicago World's Fair committee. He was definitely a city beautiful guy, and
Yes.
he has connections to the Paris, like the 1891 Paris World's Fair. So, you know, I mean, the 1894 SF Fair is essentially the 1893 Chicago's exposition. It's like just the West Coast 6 month version of it, basically.
It's the
And I,
handoff, right? It's
yeah,
like when they do the Olympics. Chicago had the summer games and now San Fran gets the winter
totally.
games.
And I think, I mean, it was definitely their first attempt um, at the narrative in San Francisco. There's a, there's a lot of things in that exhibits in that fair. Like there's a mining town exhibit, and that just makes me think that, you know, the whole gold rush could have been completely manufactured.
Well, and
You know what I
I
mean?
found this picture interesting, Casey. Look at this.
Hmm.
Fourth Avenue, Pioneer and Flood buildings.
Hmm.
Like the Flood buildings.
Wolf,
Interesting.
yeah, Wolf Flood is a name of some dude, one of the
Oh, yeah, of
controllers.
course. Yeah.
And dude, his name is I can't remember his first name, but his initial is C. It's like James C. Flood or
Yeah.
something like that. C. Flood, like see it. It's
It,
like, come on, dude, come on.
it's them picking a character and name and saying, okay, let's see if they'll believe this one.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
there's a big yeah, and that one might have gone down on the quake.
All right. Let me see if
But
I
yeah, so I mean, the connections are abundant between the Chicago people and the SF people, and the connections keep coming. I have some good pictures of
you
the
want to share them. Go
panorama.
ahead, dude. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I will hand it over to you because I'd love to see some of the stuff you got because not only have you been on the ground, right? I mean, that's what kind of inspired this whole San Francisco kick lately was the picture of you at the Palace of Fine Arts because
Oh yeah.
I see that picture of you next to that, like, I don't know if it's a pine cone or whatever that little ornament is outside.
Yeah.
And
The urn or something.
yeah, in most of the pictures, that thing looks like it's maybe 3 feet tall. And then you go
Yeah,
stand up to it and you're barely halfway up to that thing. It's
dude.
massive.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the palace. And since we're on it, let me try and find the pictures from that time real quick.
Yeah. And we're going to bounce all over the place here because this is one of those things because there's just so much to go over. But yeah,
Let me see if I can get
these,
it.
it's all the same area.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, maybe it just, I don't know if I can find these fuckers.
Oh, I think, actually what? I think I have the one of you. I want to show that one, the one of you with the uh
Okay, I think. All right, type. Yeah, I got it. I
okay.
found them. So let me. Yeah, I mean the thing about the palace. Let's see. Share screen.
Well, the palace is the only building other than the what is it? The what's his name? I always want to say Reverend Billy Graham, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
not.
no, it is. It's Bill Graham. It's a
It
Bill
is
Graham.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, they do concerts there. There's there's more buildings that survived, but I couldn't say off the top of my head.
Well, they're not there. They
To
moved
be
them,
fair,
is what they
some
said.
got moved. Yeah, man, some got moved. But like, it's so hard to the
Okay.
size.
Now, hold on. Go back to that. Go back to that.
You
That's
like
the
that one?
swastika. Okay. Now, mind you, so this was allegedly, when did they rebuild this case?
Well, that's debated, but supposedly it was rebuilt in the 60s.
Okay. 1960s, folks. After World War II is what the narrative leads us to believe is when they rebuilt this and they still put the swastika in there. You think that would have flown post World War II in any design? Even if it was meant in a very innocent manner, no city is going to approve that. So that right there shows you that this is an older structure. There's no way, and that's one of the things that makes me laugh. And those pillar columns too are original, right?
Well, I mean, they say they rebuilt it all, but it's
Yeah.
that's bullshit. There's no way. I've
No,
seen
because
I've
yeah,
watched a video. You can see the video, and the size just the proportions do not line up. It's not the same building. I mean, look, this is my buddy Nick. I mean, look
look
how
at the
small.
size of him. Now, what he's probably what, a tenth of one of those columns?
Yeah,
Man,
dude, it's huge.
those
It
things
it
are.
yeah. Every time I see him all the time.
So these
There's
are
not.
what, probably like 50, 60 feet tall columns. They look like
Yeah,
Greek
at
Greek
least, bro.
columns, and they're in groups of four, and then they all have a large block on top of them.
Yeah,
So,
there's these crying angels or whatever.
and that's the thing, it's all intricate artwork on top of these things. Like the tops of the columns are all intricately designed. There's all carvings and statues and scenes along the facade. I mean, it's amazing. And there, yeah, there's one of those urns you were talking about.
Yeah, that
So
thing's
yeah, you look
probably
at that
that
thing and
thing's
look at
like
that.
8 feet tall, dude.
Yeah, it looks like it's like 2 or 3 feet tall
Yeah,
in that picture. And
yeah,
then
those things
you
are.
with there's a picture of you standing next to it. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah,
So it makes me wonder. We see
there's this
demolition. Yeah, okay.
Greek writing too, and I haven't been able to figure out or translate it.
Huh. And
I probably have some better pictures of it, but it says Herod on one part here.
yeah, I see Massadio.
Yeah, if anyone can translate this or figure it out, it's
Oh yeah, at the bottom there it is, Herod, the last word. Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
it's a trip, dude.
And this is all rebuilt in the 60s, right? Is what they
Well,
say.
so they say, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, let me see. I thought I had.
Because even those demo pictures are suspect.
They're suspect 100%. Um, I thought I might. Oh, damn. I thought I had pictures of it queued up of the destruction.
Oh, let me
Um,
see. I might have that one.
but so the story of they saved this build. They saved the palace supposedly because of the hearse.
Yeah, right.
She petitioned to, and the hearse had a big. They had the call newspaper. Oh, here's the. Here we go.
Yeah, look at that. So you're like barely half of it.
Yeah,
That
and dude, climbing up here right here was not easy either. Like this was a. I mean, this is like as tall as me. I had to like muscle my way up.
yeah. I mean, and that's stone, right?
Yeah, dude, this is all stone, and that's one of the tr that's one of their things they've done is is they've made it look like there's wood framing in there. Only in pictures, they don't have it. Um, of course, it's not wood framing. There's no like when you dude look at these columns, man. Like, oh look at there's John Ohio from Instagram
Johnny.
looking. We weren't stoned, but like
No, not at all, bro.
these columns, like they're not they're huge. Let's go back quick. These things, like, dude, these aren't wood framing.
Yeah, they
You know
would
what I
tell
mean?
us that those are
This is
wood frames with
this.
plaster on the outside.
They wouldn't even last from the 60s.
No, and that's the thing. That's the funny thing about it is I was listening to I don't remember what podcast it was because it's not one I regularly listen to. I just randomly Googled or put Tartaria into Spotify and found this podcast. And this kid he dealt with plaster. And he
Hmm.
said that I forgot, and I think they were near Philly, and he was going out to work on some of the old buildings there. And he's like, dude, the plaster jobs were a disaster. He goes, to fix that stuff was a mess. He's like, there's no way. And they were talking about the World's Fairs and Tartaria and everything. And he's like, it just doesn't make sense that they would
Dude,
all be plaster. He's like,
totally,
granted, I think some of them are. Yeah, that makes sense. And that goes along with what anyone with common sense believes is that yeah, they built stuff at these fairs, but there's a lot of shit they didn't build.
totally. I mean, and lath and plaster is like so permanent and
Yeah,
annoying to
that's the
work
other
with.
thing. And
Like, I've been working on a house that's all lath and plaster, and anytime we have to go into the walls, it's a pain in the fucking ass. That shit lasts forever, and it's not easy to even tear down. And like you said, it's a straight up mess, bro.
yeah,
I'm
it's
trying
just
to
a
zoom in on the again on the 1894 fair sport,
yeah, because it looks like a high school football stadium.
right?
You
So
look at
yeah,
that
this is
aerial,
what's
it's got the track around it and the court,
yeah.
the field in the middle.
It's not
Announcers.
the original Ferris wheel, but then so that pyramid building we looked at,
Yeah, look at that
like
thing.
it's so weird.
Now,
And I
remember what we were looking at before, and look at this. I mean, look at the
here,
old world compared to this modern shit.
yeah, I actually have fucking pictures of this fucking place
That's
for
a cool one
sure.
too. Mount Olympus.
Yeah. Um, fuck yeah, that's tight. You know that. Oh wait, hold
Look
on.
at that inverted fucking pyramid. I mean, the
Sorry.
symbolism just can't. And that's,
Yeah, dude.
I mean, let's get to the brass tacks of it. I mean, that's the whole point of the World Fair. It was bringing in this new era, right? This
Yeah,
new order that they were bringing in. Some would say the new world order, this new
yeah.
industrial age, and it's all about inversion.
And I'm
I
pretty sure.
really
Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, I really feel like it's inversion, deception, subversion. It's like
Yeah,
it's just all lies. What is real in this realm? That's what I'm wondering nowadays, because it seems like everything that has been created on a falsehood.
totally. I mean, and if this isn't proof of them inverting, whatever. I mean, this is the same building rebuilt.
And
It's
look at
still the
that statue
Michael
right
the
there.
Young.
The
Yeah, suppose I think that's a Babylonian
without a
Sphinx.
doubt, it's got a male face, it's got tits,
Oh
it's
wait,
got
yeah,
a
let's see.
long hair. The The pair of sphinxes.
Okay, so you replace the original pair. So, whatever,
Yeah, look
it's
at
a
the reflected
recreation.
a fascination with ancient Egypt. You don't say. The Grand
Yeah,
Canyon has a fascination with ancient Egypt too. I wonder if there's any connection there
totally.
to maybe some people from Egypt being here, or was Egypt over? I mean, those are the discussions you can have, folks. There's a lot of people out there that are talking about Egypt possibly being in America, and the whole concept of the original stories coming out of America. And there's
For
some
sure. And I
ties there.
mean, DeYoung is probably a Rosicrucian for sure, because they're obsessed with the Egypt shit.
Yeah. Well, and
Here's a,
that's what you get, right? Because the Masons were too. The Masons were
mhm,
really into that Egyptian shit. And you start looking at it and everything is. And then you look at the Romans, right? And then what is America but the handing of the torch from Rome, or the next reign of Rome?
right. Check
And
out the
that's what
statue.
Chicago was, right? They said, Chicago is basically a little Roman city.
Yeah,
Look at this
yeah. It's,
statue of, what is that, like a cat, like a tiger,
it's like a panther
and a
attacking a
snake.
snake. Yeah,
Damn. And again, hey, if you're thinking though, you think in symbology, right? The snake used to represent knowledge in
yeah,
the old world, and then they inverted it, and now it's Satan, and it's just, that's the one you fear. It's so upside down.
yeah, man. Um, yeah, dude. But we can get into the Quake and stuff too, man.
Yes, yeah. So nuts and bolts of the fair is, you know 6 month fair. Basically, it was a torch passing from Chicago in 1893. Literally, some of the structures were brought out west for this fair. um
Yeah,
and
literally.
so, I mean, this is, so you're starting to see it now. Look at this little area that this is tucked into, right? This is a lot different than what we're going to look at when we get to the fires. And so this is
Yeah, I mean,
1894. We get to 1906. So a little over a decade later, and mayhem ensues, right? We're told it starts with the earthquakes and just massive fires.
yeah, I mean, then there's so much about the 1906. I like to call it an event because it wasn't just a quake and it wasn't just a fire. And even if they both actually happened, pretty much they're kind of unrelated in a way. And that's like none of this is even like conspiracy. It's all like the first place to look is the narrative of the whole event, and it falls apart pretty quick. And it leads down some pretty cool rabbit holes for sure.
Well, and I'll show you some pictures later too of, I mean, just the people's reaction to the fire is just
Oh
so
yeah,
bizarre. Like, you have people standing in the street just watching it,
yeah. I mean
and then
that's one of the
you
weirdest
look at
things
the
about it.
remains, and yeah, you look at the remains of the building and it looks like the remains of 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, and this is an explosion for sure.
Well, but here's the thing. After the fires, yes, there was definitely controlled demolition.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I
because
mean,
they sent I found a bunch of pictures of the demolition squads going in and intentionally
oh yeah.
blowing up. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. Like, well, the first thing to like really think about is that the Richter scale wasn't invented till like the 30s.
Yes,
So like, and
that's a big point, right?
they
There's
even
no way
admit,
to measure.
yeah, they admit that how they've determined the quake's magnitude was they looked back, they listened to, eyewitness accounts, and they took assessment of the damage. And like, what we're going to find out is that the damage is like isn't from the quake. And essentially, like how the story goes, is the fire chief died in the earthquake. Happened in the morning of the 17th, I believe it was. Um, and even in the narrative, they say that they didn't know what to do. So, and the key that kind of gets left out of a lot of this is that it was the military that was going around blowing up buildings. They
Well, the
claim it,
military was the firefighters too, right? For the
well,
most part at the time.
yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing is the fire chief died, and apparently the firefighters were too dumb to figure out how to fight the fire. So the military came in and just started blowing everything up. And those fires actually caused more damage than anything. And I'm pretty convinced that most of the ruins we see, it's just from that bombing. Like they were just going around bombing, and I think that's why you see a lot of people just watching. Like it, I don't. It's so hard to explain.
Yeah, they're like, are they really
Look,
fucking doing this right now? Like,
like,
this is
is
like
this?
4th of July.
Yeah, I mean, is this people watching the whole city go down? You know,
Well, and you're watching your own house in a lot of instances, right? You're
totally.
just watching them just go around and burn it down and do nothing to stop it. And
Yep,
that's the thing. And you look at the remains of the buildings, and that's what's amazing. These big stone and brick buildings that are reduced to just dust.
totally. I mean, gigantic brick and stone buildings don't burn down. Like this was a complete demolition job by the U.S. military, and I'm convinced they were doing it on purpose to absolutely erase history 100%. I mean, like I mean, we don't even know like when I mean, how can this be the biggest, greatest, worst event ever? And there's just people literally picnicking.
Yeah, they don't look afraid, right?
No,
I
they're
mean,
just like walking
look
around
at
like,
it. These guys are posing with their
yeah,
hands in their pockets, just chilling on a rooftop. Like, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
like,
it just,
dude, like if it was this bombed out,
you,
there would not be this many people surviving or like this close. It's
no, like that's
insane.
the thing. They're that close. Like, look at the people in the street. Like, the end of the block is
Yeah.
burning,
And
and
this
they're
has got to
just,
be Market Street. Like this is,
yes,
look how big it is. Like
yeah, it's either
supposedly
Fourth or Market,
all
one
that
of the
got
two.
fucking wiped out.
And yeah, and the people are just kind of hanging out on the hills watching it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, posing
okay,
for fantastic photos.
yeah.
If Instagram was a thing back then, this would be a million likes for sure
Dude,
right
that's what
here.
this is. Yeah, this is like frontline Ukraine footage that you can't find.
Yeah, I mean, and then
Whoa.
like, so this is so how is this
What?
like you know,
That's hold on. That's a pockmark from
I think they must have cleared out that building and are getting ready to build a new one.
holy yeah, man. Because that's look how deep that hole is.
I know. Well, yeah, dude.
And we're not I guess they might have had some shovels back then, some motorized shovels, but we're yeah.
Oh, dude, these guys are just filling these
Yeah, they're
things.
doing a hand shovels and
and
buckets.
and maybe they're winching them out over here or something. Something insane. Like,
And
oh,
that leads me to
let's
something we got to get
just go
into,
cruise
not
around.
this time, but I'd love to talk to you another time about is hydraulic mining out west too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because that's something that when I just saw that picture, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, these guys are digging by hand, yet you had people in the early 1800s with hoses that were
Yeah,
just wiping out cities.
totally.
Like, look at this devastation, guys. Is this Nagasaki or Hiroshima, or is this San Francisco in 1906?
Yeah, and they look the same.
It's the exact same model. And go to Chicago, 1871. Go to St. Louis, 1849. Go to Boston, 1872. Go to New York City, one of the 3 or 4 fires they had in the 1800s. Why are all these cities burning to the ground? Right?
There's
That's the
looting.
$1 million question there. And And I
This is
think
my
if
favorite.
look at that, look at these two. Look at that lady. That lady could not be happier. Like the
Makes no
agent of
sense.
death. I
Yeah.
got
Well,
one. I got
I
one of
think
these two ladies. One's in a black dress, just standing up, and there's one lady sitting down in a white dress, and they're just sitting on piles of bricks in the rubble. And it's like, holy shit, man.
it's a trip.
I
Well,
just
I think,
now when they
I mean,
when in 1906, we're talking majority of the city is just utter devastation, right?
well, that's the kind of tricky thing too, is maybe, and we'll see if we can do. So this is the map I pulled up is the fire devastation of the city.
Okay.
Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Let me find it again. Sorry, I'm not a whiz at
Oh,
this
dude, I did the same thing
computer
last night on
box.
Master Debaters. I was all over the place with my mouse button.
Okay,
All
so
right,
yeah,
so
so
we're okay. This
this
is
is
the
a city
fire
that was,
damage.
yeah. And then if you look over here, it kind of puts
Oh
it in
yeah, can you zoom
perspective
in
with
on
the
that a little bit?
city.
Okay, so we're looking at it. So in reality, it's really what the southeastern corner.
Downtown. It's like downtown basically.
Oh,
And
so
it's
the
like
high end
the
area.
financial district,
Yep.
all these places. I found this paper that um, these college students wrote about how like that was such a big deal that all that was wiped out and all the insurance scams that happened with the quakes. Like it's no surprising that they wiped through the financial district and all that stuff, you know.
Where else do we see financial places hit? I mean, this is like a pre 9/11 thing. I
Totally,
mean, and that's
totally.
what and what happened there? There was an insurance fraud on the buildings, right? I mean, that guy made billions of dollars off of those buildings.
Yeah, that paper essentially says that the Federal Reserve, this was like a huge stepping stone for the Federal Reserve because of, the fear that it created in the markets and
Oh, I
everything.
bet. Yeah.
So, I
And
mean, just
especially
that
coming out
angle
of the
alone,
1800s, right? I
totally.
mean,
So,
in the 1870s, in 1880s, you had massive you had there was starvation, there was economic issues.
so we could just look at SF and you could even just see
Yeah.
like,
Well, once you said downtown, I mean, all the
yeah, I
bells
mean,
and whistles go off because we're looking at it. I mean, think about Chicago. It was the same thing. It was that downtown area.
yeah, I mean, this is it. And that's the other, misconception is they say it wasted the whole city, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as populated in these areas, but there was population and the fair was all the way over here,
That's
the
why I've
first
read
fair.
two
Yeah.
books on it, and they've made it both seem like it was the majority of the city that burned, and it's really just this segregated area.
Yeah, I mean it was I think that map
Yeah, because there's
said,
the ferry building right there.
yeah, sorry to pull off. I think it says here on this thing, area burned 4 square miles, total area of city 40 square miles. And I think it's actually 49 square miles now. But
Four
yeah,
square
I mean,
miles burned. Okay.
totally. So I mean so like what actually did get burned? Like and how much of the city was there? That's a pretty big question. And I think they're totally blowing it out of proportion, the whole thing.
And that's a pretty directed and specified area
Yeah,
when we
man,
look at it, right? It's like it was intentionally attacked there. Now, if
for sure.
now we're talking an earthquake, right? A massive scale earthquake. And if we case, can you go back to that other map that shows the whole city?
The one that I was just on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we look at this, like what happened in all the rest of the city? There was no fires or earthquake damage there. It was just focused on this one area. That's a hell of a specific earthquake. I find that story has been one that's like the Chicago fires, right? They tell us the Chicago fires in 1871 started because a cow tipped over a candle, which then
Right.
started a fire that, burned thousands of acres, which on the same day you have the Peshtigo fire up in Wisconsin, which burned a couple million acres. And then across the lake in Michigan, you have another fire that burned a couple million acres, but the three fires are not connected in any way.
Right. I mean, that's it doesn't take a conspiracy theorist to like put those things together, you
It's
know?
like, yeah, like come on, guys. And that's why I wanted to get with you on this because I know you've dug into this pretty deep. I've always been confused by the fires because I'm like, I went in with the understanding that the city was destroyed, and looking at it now, no, downtown was destroyed. And it looks even more calculated after looking at these couple maps and the way you broke it down.
Totally. And like we know that the city was built out because like we've seen with that pano that you pulled up earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
so we're not talking.
so
Okay, yeah, this is the Moy Bridge pano.
yeah, let's
Okay.
see if I how big I can get it.
Yeah, it doesn't
So,
blow up great, but it zooms in good.
but this is San Francisco in 1877.
Yep.
And this is taken from Nob Hill. And I can show you where that
This
is. Like,
this part right there always
oh
freaked
yeah,
me out. Like
yeah,
what is with all this mud just sitting here in the middle of the
yeah.
neighborhoods?
And there's another version of this where there's like people down here like moving stone. There's like ruins on the ground. And this was, this was before any kind of fucking quake. So this is like looking north, I believe, and like
Okay.
coming back.
And now again, guys, this is 1877, right? So we are 25 years into the post gold rush.
Yeah, and
And
20.
look at all these built. I mean, this is a sea of buildings in San Francisco. Now, hold on right there. Oh, and what you'll see in this, okay, we're not just talking about houses. Yeah, there are massive cathedrals in here. We're talking Gothic cathedrals, Moorish style cathedrals, um, Roman-esque cathedrals. I mean, there's all sorts of different buildings in this as well. And again, we're talking 25 years after.
Yeah, and 20 something years before the quake.
Yeah.
So we know. Oh yeah, here's a better
Yeah,
quality one.
there's that picture.
But yeah, I mean, like this is this is completely
And
built out
anyone
city.
that's wondering what we're looking at, okay, we're looking at Edward Muybridge, MUI Bridge, did a panorama of San Francisco in 1877. And it's infamous because there's very few living beings in the picture. There's a
Yeah, there's
couple of horses you can see in there, maybe a person or two, but for a entire panorama of San Francisco, there's not a soul in sight, and we're looking at like early daytime. Now, some would say this is he intentionally did this, um, just so you could understand the scope of the the layout and the buildings and everything.
I mean,
Uh,
supposedly these actual pictures are like 4 by 5 feet, like
Oh
on
yeah, it's
glass.
huge in a museum. This thing is like I forgot how long I think the photo is like 20 some feet long.
There's all kinds of little things like this, little text.
And
So
and
I mean,
that's
so
yeah, so that's
yeah,
what
I
you
mean,
you zoom in and you start seeing different things, right? Like you were
totally,
just
yeah,
looking at, you see all these little antennas, you see these muddy hills in the
yeah. I mean,
middle of neighborhoods.
this one's just great,
Like what is that dirt pile doing in the middle of the neighborhood?
and like these are just pristine.
You have yeah, and look at the one just north of that too.
Yeah,
On the other side of it, I mean, look at these mansions, folks. I mean, these are
yeah. One
just
of these is a Crocker. Was a Crocker
yeah,
one
Crocker.
maybe? I
There's
get them
four of them,
confused.
right? Four of those robber barons that had mansions around here.
Yep, they're all right there. I can show you. It's right. Nob Hill is the the name of the neighborhood.
Yep.
Where is it? I was just looking at. Oh, here we go.
Because
Where?
there's some real interesting buildings there, and you wonder like, oh, were they there? Or were they founded?
Oh yeah.
Because
What the
you
hell did I
look
go
at them and
past
they,
it?
they have that old feel. Even the ones where they say, they're taking a
Oh,
picture
here
of
we
it
go.
in 1890. You look at it and it's like that building looks like it's been there for hundreds of years. Look at the weathering on it. You
Yeah,
know,
this is a very interesting area for sure. This
look
is
at
what is it? Oh yeah, well this is a
there he
James C.
is.
Flood mansion, dude.
There he
And this is
is.
a billionaires club now.
Okay.
And then we got Grace Cathedral over
Grace.
here.
Yeah.
I got pictures of all this stuff
Look at
too.
that. She's a monster.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Um, so like I don't know if we'll get into it too much, but I do think that the fire was possibly to cover up was to the where they blasted the fire was the Star City like grounds basically,
Okay,
and
yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think if the fire was intentionally set? What was the intention behind the fire? I mean, other
well
than just burning shit down, there had to be an intent of theirs beyond
yeah
that.
my the theory I've been going with, and it's actually led me to discover many other Starforts, was that this map of the fire is essentially the map of like this the main Star City hub of San
Oh
Francisco essentially.
shit! Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not like the typical starry star, but like the hedgehoggy like Star City shape,
You
you
can
know.
definitely see that it has the potential. It's right on the water. We know
Yeah.
they were always involved in the water. You look at the area too, and if you go to that map on the slide before this one that we looked at before, yeah, that one right there, you
Oops.
can kind of see it, right? Like you see
Yeah,
that outer shell being formed,
totally.
and it,
And
it
so
could definitely be one of those hedgehog type forts.
yeah, man. And that just got me looking more in SF. Um, and even like, so here's an example. Like, this is a Fairmont hotel and it's right on Nob Hill.
Okay.
Like, look at the outline of the building.
Yeah.
Like,
What
I
are
feel
those?
like I feel like they're building Starforts within Starforts. It's like all a connected power thing. And I think that's one of the ways they've manipulated this and how they've been able to hide a lot of this from us is because they've just built on top of it, like we were saying.
Well, yeah, and we know that, yeah, by them building on top of it, they're just going to use whatever's underneath. And we also know
Totally.
that Starforts, a majority of the infrastructure was underground. And
Yep.
we know how much they love being underground.
Yep. So like
So
there's a
you're
bunch
you're
that I
you're
feel like,
saying that this is likely to destroy an old Starfort grounds and pop.
yep.
Now, I always
So
wonder
here's
about
a
that when
Mission
they,
Dolores.
oh, there
Like
she
just
is.
just
Okay.
look at the like it's so odd that it angles here and has this corner building, you know?
Yeah, look at that. And
And then
Mission Dolores is from like the 1820s, I think, or no,
oh, it goes way
1700s.
yeah, it goes to the 1700s.
It was the cathedral I was thinking of was the early 1800s. That Cathedral
Huh.
de Assis or whatever right next to it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, there is like a Gothic cathedral that popped up for a little bit.
Yep.
Um, but there, so dude, there's like, so at the Presidio here is like big military base, obviously.
Yep.
Fort Point
That's definitely a star fort.
is right here, yeah. And so
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, so there was a Spanish fort on the site before this, and I got pictures. Let me fucking.
Now, Fort Point, for those listening, is at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, they built it on top of it.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about it, symbolically, they're taking piers and pylons and driving it through these old forts, kind of like a death blow almost, in a sense, if you're looking at it, dramatically. So,
Um,
oh man, Fort.
Let me find these maps, dude, because
Yeah.
um, here, let me get out of screen share for a sec and
So what
just
do you
find where
think
I got
about
this.
the bridge and that whole area, Alcatraz and all that?
Well, Alcatraz is a fort, was a
Definitely
star
a
fort
fort,
for
right?
sure. Yeah,
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 okay.
and there's maps. I just maps of Alcatraz. It looks a lot like a star fort. Um, Really, what I've found
Let's see.
is that so all the missions, I believe, are built on top of star forts.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, missions, the Presidios. Um,
Okay.
so in the story with the SF Presidio is when John Fremont and
That's
Kit
ours.
Carson and some of those fucking assholes sailed into the bay. Um, they named John Fremont named it Golden Gate Park, Golden Gate, Golden Gate, sorry, Golden Gate Park, and he named it the Golden Gate. Then, and it's when they sailed in, they found these ruins of this Spanish fort, and I'm ready to get back. I can share again if you want.
All yours,
Um,
brother.
yeah, sorry, bro. But so
Oh,
these
wow.
these
Yeah.
are the maps of the. This is a map of supposedly the original fort. Um,
Is this at Fort Point?
this is beneath Fort Point, Castillo
Okay.
de San Joaquin.
So you're saying they built Fort Point on top of this.
Yeah, so when John Fremont and Kit Carson came into the bay, they found this ruin, like it was ruined. They said it was ruined, or
Yeah.
by the time they found it, but like this was there, like right here.
Hmm. Same
Um,
base, huh?
yeah, and so it's okay, looks pretty fucking pointy, you know what I mean? And then there's a great freaking, I think this page has it. There's a little diorama out at Fort Point of like what they say this place looked like, and it's just it's so laughable.
Oh, I've seen one, yeah, where it's like these like
It's not even on here.
wooden shacks.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So I found that in like El Presidio, Santa Barbara,
Yep.
bunch of
Interesting. That
stuff,
showed
and
California as an island too, that map.
you start getting into this kind of stuff.
No, this is a square. Okay, so this is a square with these little juts out on the corners,
Yeah.
which is
So
real interesting.
yeah, and I think they squared out a lot of the star forts out here, like for whatever reason. Um, and I think that's the us building on top of them is squaring them out.
Is that a Mason thing, you think?
I don't know. I don't quite know.
Because that's
But
interesting.
we
I've
got
never seen the square ones before, but I've always wondered about that because you see this era of, well, you see a lot of those type star forts
yeah.
where they had the
So this
points
is
on the corners.
Presidio San Diego.
Yep.
I think this map just isn't quite, representative. I think they've squared them off, but I mean it clearly shows the Monterey one is a really good one. If I could,
Okay.
let's see. And I do have these pictures somewhere. Oh no, not this. Oh yeah,
Oh,
here we go. Look at
there
that.
you go. Yep.
So this
And
is a
that's it.
Monterey, the Monterey Presidio.
Yeah, that
Um,
could pass as one of the ones over in the Netherlands.
Sure. I mean, and this is just a little map drawing, but dude, I mean, it shows there was Starforts.
Yep.
They're saying it was Spanish, but like when you read into a lot of these, like it was ruins supposedly, and they built on top of them.
Yeah.
And so like
Well,
in California, like all these missions and presidios are all connected by this road, El Camino Real, which means the Royal Highway, the King's Road.
the King's
And they're
Road, right?
they're
Yeah.
yeah, they're all connected. It's a royal highway. I think it's just inherited, man. Inherited and built upon, and that's how we've lost all the history of those. That's why we can't find nothing here. And there's El Camino Reals, there's Arizona, there's Florida. If anyone out there has the time to look into those, they're even in Spain. I guarantee into Mexico, I guarantee they're just all riddled with star forts, all the missions. We could
Yeah.
even look at them
You
from
see that across the
above.
globe, though, right? A lot of the Spanish
Oh, dude.
colonies, every Spanish colony just about has an abundance of star forts,
Yeah, 100%.
or in the direct vicinity because they wanted supposedly to defend against the Spanish. Now, that makes you believe that these star forts are almost a network there too, but damn, that's interesting. I didn't get into the Starfort aspect of this because that adds a whole different angle because that's another component, so to speak, if we're talking about, this global infrastructure or this, connected infrastructure.
Totally. This is
Damn.
the Santa Cruz mission.
Yeah.
I mean, like all these places just have these, interesting triangle corners, you know.
And are these in the area that burned?
Well, the San Francisco ones are all out. Those little satellites are all outside of the area.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering if any
Um,
of those stars were inside of that little downtown
but
area.
most of them, so they've covered up a lot of stuff with parks.
Yep.
Um,
Parks, golf courses, cemeteries. That's where they
yeah, I
love to
mean,
hide things.
like we could look at all these
Look at
parks.
that.
Alamo Square. Um, let's see what else we
Dude, you
got.
can't tell me that wasn't something at some time.
Oh yeah, here's a step pyramid park.
Look at that. Wow. And just in the middle of the neighborhood, right?
Yeah. So I think these are all I mean, what we consider
That's got
satellites.
I'll put money on it. That's a burial mound.
Sure.
That's a burial mound that they've just covered up and said, okay, yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
So yeah, I think they've hidden all those underneath these missions and this whole colonizer mythology, in my opinion.
So yeah, and now do you think it was the Spanish that are the destroyers here initially? Do you think it was
Um,
Americans when we finally got out there? Because the Spanish were out there since like the 1500s, according to the narrative.
yeah. I mean, I've been kind of leaning towards, um, I think like the story of colonization. I think this age of discovery and age of sail and the colonization of our realm could be like possibly the closest to real history we might have in the sense of I think post like post 1400 it was a free for all for all this land, and that's essentially the story of colonization.
And the
Like
people, right? It wasn't
oh
just the
yeah,
land. Everything
yeah,
was up for free for all at that
one
time.
100%, and they took it and they did what they pleased. And fucking the last 500, 600 years or whatever, 500 years has just been a war for all this people and land. And now it's the populations, they're harvesting energy off us, power, our work, our time, our lives, you know. It's just been put on a much larger scale.
And think of the chaos that they brought too, right? I mean, I'm not saying that
Totally.
pre this time that it was a very, everything was amazingly peace. And that's the other side of this, right? I don't know if I believe at any time that there was this absolute peace, right? I think that things in general could have operated at a higher level, but I think in every society you're going to have the people who benefit and the people who are taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, um, of course, my jaded ass, yeah, I'm with you 100%, you know what I mean? Uh, but I also think that we've been programmed so hard into war and into conflict that, it's really hard to imagine, a world without that. It's
That's
almost
a great
impossible. You know what I mean?
that's a fucking great point because think about what we're taught in school, right? We are taught the names of generals and put them in the highest of praise for going around the world and killing people. But yet the people who cure diseases, the people who do real things that impact our lives, that are real people we should look up to, never mentioned in the history books. It's all war. And if anybody foreigner were to come into the American school system, you'd laugh because you'd think that we've just been in perpetual war throughout history. And that's what they
And
want you to see. And they
yeah,
want you to know the conflicts that have gone on. They don't want you to know a lot of the other stuff that have gone on, like these amazing buildings that were around and
to-
some of the technologies that they had and things like that. They don't want you to
definitely,
know that, but they'll let
and
you know
what they
about the
actually
death and
destroyed.
destruction.
Totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we've been at war like our whole history, more or less. It's wild, dude.
The more you think about it,
Nothing's
yeah.
changed. Yeah.
And
Like,
what I'm starting
what's
to
changed?
question now is who are we at war with? Right? Like who are we battling here? Who's this the demanding the destruction of these cities? Like who's the one calling the shots here?
Totally. I mean, that we may never know.
No, 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 no. Never.
But I mean,
Never.
you could see this on a map of Amsterdam or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Like,
definitely. Yeah, that's
you
one of the
know,
ones that would be one that they out over there, they put that on top of a mountain or something, right? That'd be on top of a hill,
totally.
and then they'd shape the hill like they did. I think they did that in Portugal. Um, but
Uh,
yeah. Is
the
this a
missions
fort?
are hiding it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is I think the San Diego Presidio.
Now, even again, you look at this and you see the walls around the perimeter, right? And you have those points at the end pointing out. And if you go back to some of the early Starfort work that I did, I was, talking about those possibly being weapons, right? And those points being able to direct energy, not necessarily for negative purposes, but also for positive purposes out of those points.
Sure.
Fort Stockton. Look at all these forts in this area.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this is San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is just up and down the West Coast to
Yeah,
California. I mean,
this
you're
is
just
from
looking,
Sonoma to San Diego.
okay,
El Camino Real runs the whole way, and it connects everything. You can walk it. You can
really?
walk it the whole way. Yeah, like there's people that do it.
Damn. So, okay, so we're looking at you. I'm just trying to understand this, and you're looking at 1906. They blow everything up, and it's like, okay, now where if we go back, where in relation are they going to build the new fair?
Okay.
That's on the bay, right?
Yeah, I can show you. So it's
So
just
it's
right
right by the
here.
ferry
No, well, it's up a little bit. So here we can do,
because the ferry's right over there. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
here, let's let's do a virtual fucking. I've tried to drive down this recently, and it's pretty much only buses and taxis now. But this is Market Street,
Yep.
the main street or whatever you want to say,
That's
and
like the artery of San Francisco right
yeah,
there.
and this is I'm sure most of you have probably seen the video of the chaos video cruising down Market Street from like 1906, a couple days before the quake.
Yep. And
Where
that's the one where
essentially
they try and tell you that the sign on the outside of the building said it was founded in 836.
something like that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's down on the ferry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been meaning to check that on the ferry bill.
Because
Yeah,
that video is bullshit. I've looked at that up, down, and sideways, and you can tell that they have fuzzed out the letters in between because they're definitely there. It's definitely there's 2 letters and a 1 in front of the 8
yeah,
in
it's
that
shady.
video.
And I think that whole video is staged too, right?
It looks like it because you just have, I mean, I can play it for you. I have it here. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's play that
Yeah,
video
throw it on there.
because
Do I need to
that's
get
an
out of here?
interesting one. Let's see. Is it in? It's just there. Let's see. Compilations. Let's see. Here we go. All right. 1906. What did this open up in? Movie. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Let's see. Share. All right, where's
I've started to make a video about El Camino Real and the Starforts, but it's just a lot. I'm glad to be able to talk about it here, man.
Oh yeah, and that's where I've got with some of this. Like, I would love to make deep videos on all this. I just don't have the time to go through it. So I figure this is killing multiple birds here. So here's this video of 1906, and they even colorize this one.
Riders on the storm.
Look, it does look filmed.
Riders on the storm.
Everything
Into this house we're born.
and right here for those that are wondering. And so Casey, if you look even right here, this is where they're saying there's nothing here. And I have a different angle of this where you can see there's an A and a D and then a 1 here. So this is sketchy at best because look at all the space in there too. Like, they would leave that much space in there. Yeah, so don't put all your eggs in the whole 896 basket based on that conspiracy, because I don't think on that side.
We're thrown like a dog without a bone, an actor out alone. Riders on the storm.
They really killed it.
There's a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like
That's
a
the crazy
toad.
thing too. Remember that video was the day
Take a
before
long
the
holiday. Let your children play. If you give this man a ride, sweet family will die. Killer on the road.
Yeah, let's go back to that. So you will get this video right here where he's coming down the street. This is the day before the earthquake. What are the chances that they film this the day before the earthquake happens? And then,
Boy, dude, totally. And let me throw something else on that too. So Daniel Burnham, yeah, I know you know the name.
oh yeah,
So this is just trippy. Another pre-quake, and this is another thing too about it that makes you think. So let's get to it. Let me get a screen share going. Hold on. So Daniel Burnham, dude, and for whatever reason, I've never really found out why. Um, he drew up these plans for San Francisco in
oh, that's right.
1905. and they're insane and epic. And if you and you know people have been paying attention along, like you'll know that San Francisco was built by then, like we've been saying. So like this would like take major construction efforts just to
Huge.
even come up with this, you know, like look what he's proposing, you know. So
It
this is
looks,
1905.
it almost looks like Chicago-esque.
Totally, like he just stole it.
Yeah.
So there's
Which
all
he
these
also was part of the design of. But yeah,
totally, yeah,
so the crazy part about this is he came up with this whole plan, and then the fire happened and they scrapped it. It was never mentioned again.
yeah, and which is weird in and of itself, but um, you know, his crew, the Beaux Arts City Beautiful World's Fair dudes, were the ones who did like redesign San Francisco and were part of the builders who redesigned it. So whether he scrapped this plan and they went with their own, you know, plan, I just
So
feel like why is he proposing this in 1905
what do
unless
you I
maybe
was
he
gonna
knew something? Did he know something? You know what I mean? Were they
is
really planning for this?
is this the old is this the previous plan?
Yeah,
Right?
I
Is
thought
this
of
the
that too, for
previous
sure.
layout and he's just showing it to you, knowing that we're not going to rebuild this, but this is what it used to be like back in the day.
Yeah,
And these
man.
aren't even his drawings. These are drawings they took out of a book, right? That they have
Yeah.
that has the real. Oh man,
I've
you got
definitely
mine
I've
spinning
definitely
now.
thought of that because I have a who knows if the 1906 quake even happened, you know. I've had
Yeah.
a I've had a, you know, a, a theory that it was all programmed in 1915, you know what I mean?
So you're
Through
saying the
the
fires didn't even happen, that they kind of staged it in 15 and, gave you the pictures and stuff.
yeah, like you know,
Yeah.
maybe that's when they put it out, you know. They're talking about the Great Fire and the rebirth, you know. I think that is
Well,
definitely an option.
yeah, that whole Phoenix symbolism just pops up in every fucking city,
No, for
That's
sure.
their
Yeah.
that's their whole MO for this new industrial age, is that Phoenix. And ironically, what's his name? Rockefeller owns, or was it Rockefeller? Yeah, Rockefeller owns the Chicago University, and
Hmm.
their mascot is the Phoenix.
You know, symbolism is not lost on these guys at all.
No.
Yeah, man. So it was definitely a fucking destroy job, 100%. And you know, the narrative, just the fact the military blew everything up, just to me screams that this was like a plan. This was the military literally going in there and blowing shit up.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
you have literally, there's dust left in some of these rubble piles. Like you're talking multi-story brick buildings and stone buildings that are reduced to just rubble, like
Totally.
dust. Like,
Yeah,
and where have we seen that before?
totally. We know fire like damage a billion. Like, how are they saying that back
Yeah.
then? That's the other thing too, is so they're communicating by telegram, you know, back then. And so how are all these newspaper reports going out? You know, like so there is a story of the military Army Corps of Engineers we're just running telegram lines the whole time, you know, just keeping the lines open. But
Just
it
telling
just
people the narrative, right? Just
sure.
pumping out. Yeah.
And you know what make like you know these are all reports from like a day later. Like how are they getting all this?
So they could have even forced these people out of the city with some smaller fires, and then brought these guys in and just started going ham and blowing stuff up all over the place.
Totally. And you know,
Wow.
I mean, exactly. Who we don't even know what
I Yeah, I've never
said
taken that
happened.
angle case where that this could have never happened, right? And this could have been a story that was presented later to fit the narrative of this whole Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense because nothing really does make sense, you know?
No, exactly. And I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that either. Now, do I think it's the absolute? Probably not, but I think it's somewhere in between.
For
I
sure. I
think
mean,
that it's
yeah,
definitely somewhere in between the, narrative of fire, and this was just straight up pre-planned demolition that happened maybe after the fact.
yeah, I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, totally. I mean, it absolutely happened. They blew shit up for days afterwards. Like, and that's not, that's in every story you
Oh yeah,
read,
and we see the pictures of that, right? And
Yeah, I
we
mean,
see the videos of it, of the people. I mean,
yeah,
there's people having dinner out in the street, at the dinner table, just sitting there playing cards, and in the background is just absolute devastation. And they're
totally.
just,
And like there's videos of buildings falling, but like, dude, no one got out their video camera in 1906 and recorded an earthquake live. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, how would that even happen? So I think, all that footage is all out of context too, like that could just be them from demolishing the buildings a week later, a month later, a year later even.
That could be them playing around with cameras too, in Hollywood basement,
Yeah, I
trying
mean,
to
how do
think.
we know that that brick wall falling down was on Market Street in San Francisco in 1906,
Yeah.
There's no way we can even prove that besides they're saying that this is a wall in San Francisco falling down from
Well,
the earthquake.
and before, and this brings up a great point, because before we started recording here, we were talking about H Bancroft, and I was showing you this book I found. I found this amazing book from the 1890s that talks about, and for those of you that aren't aware, H Bancroft is basically, you would say, quote unquote, the godfather of history for the American West, for the natives out west. Basically, he wrote over 60,000 pages he's credited with, and has a tremendous library out in California. And there was the Society of California basically calls him out and says that his writing is false. His depictions of people and events are misrepresentations. And they wanted to get this out there while they were still alive, because then it could be testimony. After all these guys are long gone, then it's just a story, right? And I feel like this 1906 fits in that mold too, where, once you get past it, it's just a story. Once all these people are gone, there's nobody to tell firsthand accounts of this anymore. They're long gone.
Yeah, man. But like we don't even know what they actually told them back then.
Yeah.
This is a Bancroft building on Market Street, SF, decorated for I think it's a Knights Templar parade or something.
Yeah, he was big into Templars and Masons, because you can look at the Mason symbolism up top. You see the
Oh yeah,
little square and compass up there. But yeah, this guy, man, he's another one of their stories, their characters that they create in this.
for
High
sure. And
level. He just so happened to grow up in Buffalo, right? And if we think back to Buffalo, that in the it's one of those cities that has magic to it, if you ask me. I think that's one of those old world cities. And anybody that wants to learn about Buffalo, go to Bushwhacking Buffalo by Berserker Bear on YouTube, because this guy just crushes Buffalo. He's on the ground. He's doing like we're doing here with the maps. He's going through old books, old articles. He's great source for Buffalo and other stuff too. But I just love the guy's work, so had to give him a shout out there.
he kills it, and he gets feet on the ground. And my
Yep.
favorite channels and pages that I follow, closely are like people who are doing that, and just getting eyes on the ground.
Yep. Yeah, what do we have here?
I was looking for this photo of JP Morgan in San Francisco being a shady fucker.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat too. That's another one. Is that Morgan clan?
Yeah, he was big in
Was he
SF.
big into San Francisco?
Well, he's definitely had his feet in it. So like Treasure Island, um, it was originally built to be the airport, and it's a weird history, but he was in where the airport's built now. Um, there's pictures of him with the dude who owned the land or whatever. Clearly, like a
Shocker.
shady deal. Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. I just was trying to find this damn picture. But it's J.P. Morgan, Huntington, this dude from New York, I believe. Um, so basically, for, they didn't use Treasure Island for the airport, and they gave it to the military, which then in turn they built the 1939 World's Fair on, and um, and then they built the airport where it is, which is in the city Millbrae. That was the dude's name, and that was the Stoned Ramble of San Francisco right there.
Yeah, that's
But
unbelievable.
I was trying to find that damn pic, but who knows where it is. But
Wow.
he is definitely lurking around. I mean, the financial center in SF is crazy.
That's yeah, that whole Market Street area, right?
Yeah, yep, all
That
that.
seems to be
There's
the
two
vein.
different mints.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
See, and that
one's
if you
one's
know if they're
closed.
doing something with money,
Oh
there's
yeah,
some energetic value to that site.
the old mint. Um, Dude, it's like built into a hill.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you showing me that.
Shit, that's it. Oh, there it is.
So look at that. Gee, I wonder what's under there.
Yeah. Oh well, um, the train goes through here, and I is this where it goes underground somewhere around there? But yeah, what is underneath here? Look at that. There's even an
Look at
entrance.
that. Dude, that's creepy. There's an underground entrance. Yeah, to that
At
mint.
least, at least.
Wow. And that's look at that. That is an it looks like an old Starfort location too, because look at the
Totally.
corner right there. How they
Yeah, I mean
rounded
the
it off a little bit. I bet you
big
back in
time.
the day those came out to more tips.
Yeah. So I think part of my theory with like the Star City thing is that the Star Cities actually were like Starforts within Starforts within Starforts. It's just kind of like this
Yes.
whole connected thing, and I think they've bastardized this whole system in the same way, like that, like building just on top of it. It doesn't have to be the same, but I think a lot of times they do mimic the shape. It's just it's like crosses streets and it like mushes stuff together. I mean, like, look at this. I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, and so that's part of the whole deception too, and why it is so hard, to peel the layers away from this is because it's literally buried,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
you know.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, we were gonna look at the 1915 fair site. I know we've been going for a while.
Yeah, let's take, you know what we'll do? We'll take a look at this site and then we'll clip it for tonight. And next time we get together, we'll start with that fair and then we'll go wherever we want from there.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Because
Let
to
me
get into the fair now, that's another, we could go for an hour on that fair alone.
yeah, I mean, I can't even believe it's been an hour 45 or whatever.
It
So,
flies, my man. We're
yeah,
digging
dude.
deep tonight.
Oh yeah.
So this
So,
is okay, yeah. So here's the river,
um,
the
yep. So,
the bay.
yep. This is north south. We got Alcatraz here, Golden Gate, Fort Point, the Presidio, and
Yep.
it covers a huge area as well.
Yeah, look at the size
Um,
of that.
yeah, dude, and it's beautiful too. Like it's really cool out there.
It looks like it, man.
But there's a fort here, old fort here. I've been finding like baseball fields often like I mean a baseball field, right?
The
Like,
point, it'll point
you
you in the
know,
direction.
but like these are weird shaped baseball fields,
That is a very strange baseball field right there.
And
Because
so I find so many of these, and like they could have put a little more effort in it and just, made them fucking shaped like, two fields, but instead we got this weird thing over here. These guys, they have it's like never ending fucking outfield. It's like, come on, man. This is a military base. You guys couldn't have, you know, done a little better job
well, they
on
don't
that
want to
one.
disturb what's underneath, Casey, you
Sure, well,
know?
that's the
That's
exactly,
that's the thing. It's like, and
exactly,
that's what I'm
bro.
wondering about all this stuff
And like,
now.
I think I've shown you this one before, but these three baseball fields that
Yes,
form this pyramid,
look at that. They
and so like, yeah, and this area, Lone Mountain, this is where the cemetery used to be before that they moved it. All the cemeteries.
Now, how crazy is that? Moving
Yeah, that
cemeteries. Now, why would
I
you move a cemetery?
totally.
Look at what's in the middle. Whoa.
Yeah, bro.
What is this? Law
University
Lone
of San
Mountain.
Francisco,
Yeah, look at that.
USF.
With
The
the
University of San Francisco is on Lone Mountain, which used to be where all the fucking cemeteries were.
Lone Mountain. And look at the obelisk, obviously. They had to have their little tower penis out front.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Damn.
And then even if,
And
to
that's
give
the
this,
middle of the triangle, too. Look at that.
yep,
That that tip of that thing is like kind of in the center of that triangle.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's the crazy stuff. And when you start looking into it, you see, you look into DC, you see that everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And the more, we get people looking at this stuff, the more we're going to start finding that everything is coded. All the layouts of the streets, all the
Oh, for
building
sure.
designs, all the field placements, all the golf course placements, the parks, all this shit is planned for a reason, and there's a value to it to them. It
Totally, bro.
doesn't, and unfortunately, from what I found, it doesn't benefit us in any way.
Usually doesn't.
No, right? It's always one way usually. So
I've been finding maybe I should do. Here's talking about everything's planned. Um, Me and my buddy Trasco have been pulling. We were looking into California Street, and let's just do. Oh,
what do you guys do? What is California Street?
so it's a street. How do you
Oh,
change?
there's the
Okay,
Hopkins mansion.
yeah. So California Street's just a street in San Francisco that runs from from right here in the financial district straight through Chinatown and in Nob Hill
Ah,
is where the Millionaires Row was.
okay.
And so, like, some of these addresses, so the Mark Hopkins Hotel is at 999 California.
All right. That's definitely symbolic.
Yep, you could think so. And then, dude, there's the huge
And it's
Masonic
not,
temple
not
here.
necessarily negative either. I mean,
No,
999 is just for him to be successful,
yeah,
but
the Masonic auditorium's at 1111 California.
yep. But numbers have no value. Come
Yeah,
on.
you know, they're not they're not hooking that smart.
Yeah,
1000 California Streets Pacific Union Club. That's a James C. Flood building,
that's the flood. Yeah, there's our
and
boy.
the Millionaires Club. Yeah, man, and it keeps like, we've been looking through a bunch of these, and there's all kinds of very interesting
And that's why we need people looking at this
coincidences.
shit, right? Like that's why
Totally.
the just having eyes on this, different eyes. I mean, I've learned more tonight about looking at San Francisco just from listening to you talk about it than I would doing anything else myself. Like, and now that I've seen that, now I can feel comfortable. Okay, now I know where the fair was. Now I know where the fire was. Now I can kind of relate the two. Now I can see, okay, here's San Francisco. How does that relate to San Diego?
Yep. Yeah. So
And
here is the 1915
hey,
fairgrounds,
look at those points right there, Casey.
where these
Those are
ones.
awful Starforty right
Yeah.
there.
Yep. And this is all, all like this was all built from the ruins of the fair, supposedly.
Would
And
they
I've
dump
been
it in
down,
the ocean?
yeah, and built this jetty and stuff.
That's
There's
beautiful because
the SF Yacht Club is here. And dude, I've been here, and there's brick walls, there's like masonry, like whatever they said they threw away from the fair was like brick buildings and stuff, you know
so
what I
these
mean?
people just pull their boats up and walk all over the fair now. That's hilarious.
Pretty much. So
Yeah.
like all this, the fair basically went from here up at Fort Mason, and
Okay.
this is like where the what's it called? Like the fun zone was.
Yep.
Um, so that was like all through here. And then as you get into all the other buildings. So
Oh,
I
okay. So
think,
there's the tip right there. Yep, that's
yeah.
still there.
So I think, is this Scott? So Scott Street, um, Scott, and so here's Lombard. Lombard runs through a big part of this part of the city,
Yeah.
and it comes all the way. And then like at the very end, there's the one block of the curvy road.
Yeah.
But so it's Lombard and Scott, I believe, were the main entrances. Um, so was it Lombard? Yeah, so right here, I believe, is
Look at that.
where
Look
the
how they
main
have the
entrance was.
crosswalks making it outline.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and then it's not, not very. This restaurant right here is called Maybeck's, and he's a dude who built the Palace of Fine Arts.
Yep. Damn.
So this was like the main entrance. It's been a while since I compared these things, but the Tower of Jewels, I believe, was somewhere around here, but
Okay.
or up over here maybe. But anyways, here's the end. The end is right here
There's the
at the Palace of
palace.
Fine Arts,
Yeah.
and then
Look at
this is
that.
like uh, it was the Exploratorium. I think it's just like an empty. I think it's empty at the moment.
Yeah, and that's almost like the peristyle at the Chicago Fair.
Hmm.
At the end they had that wall with the columns and the statues and everything on
Right.
top. Damn,
Yeah.
that's
So this is
amazing.
yeah.
So one of the
This is the
lone
grounds.
remnants of the 1915 fair is the Palace of Fine Arts.
Yep.
One of the few remaining.
And I've cruised around in here. Is it that elementary school? There's some definitely like some interesting stuff that could easily be, foundations or just the same buildings.
Uh-huh.
Like, you know, The SF is crazy. There's stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, and that's why I wanted to get with you, because I've tried doing this and I just get lost because I'm like, I don't even know where I am, what I'm looking at. Like I'll find something. I'm like, okay, how does this relate? So I can't figure it out. There's just so much in San Francisco.
Yeah, and it's densely populated.
Look at that. Yeah. I mean, you're zooming out and it's like everything's right. It's
Mhm.
just packed.
Yeah, I mean, you could see this one of the coolest sights is looking at that from the bridge.
Oh, I can only imagine
The Golden Gate Bridge.
driving
Oh,
past that.
yeah, I think you said what you asked about Golden Gate Bridge once earlier, maybe. I can't remember. Golden Gate Bridge, I don't know. It's a trippy one.
Well, yeah, I was
Um,
asking about being built on Starforts,
oh
and
yeah,
I,
well, yeah, I mean, well, yeah, first of all, like why? Why did they? I mean, they could. I mean, you can't tell me they couldn't have picked a different spot or like.
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Why
there's
would they
got to be
build com
some value to it, right? Nothing is done by chance. And I understand that
No,
it's probably the shortest distance too, but
sure, but I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. The thing is about the bridge though is there's like tons of it's there's tons of documentation of them building it. There's video, there's documentaries, there's tons of photos. I found a website that like literally listed like their building plan and like what they did by the date and everything.
yep.
So it was like it was the construction, whatever, was super well documented. And when I did find that, it made me think, and that was another thing that made me think about, the lack of construction photos. It made me believe that, you know, obviously if we built something so epic, people are gonna fucking swing their dick around fucking till the end of time saying, I built this motherfucker, look at this shit, look what we did. But like pre this time, there's none of that, none of that. Maybe rare instances, but like there's no mention. There's like nowadays you get the people who supplied the screws be like, yep, we're the official screw fucking motherfuckers who built this skyscraper,
Yeah, we
there's
built the
no
whole thing.
yeah, there's
But
no endless supply of people trying to gain hype off it, but back then there was nothing of that,
well, yeah, and
it's just trippy,
that makes me suspicious if we have that much
100%.
documentation but no pictures. It's like on the other side you have, you look at the world's fairs where we're just told, oh yeah, it was just built here, and you get a picture here and there. Every now and then you'll get a really good series of photos on a building being built, but a lot of them could just be touch up, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It-
scaffolding on a building does not mean it's being erected.
no, it
It
could
could
be
just be getting,
whitewashed, right?
it could just be getting new windows or something,
Yep.
It could just be getting painted or they could be hanging lights.
Yeah.
Like scaffolding does not prove construction. You know what I mean? Like these drawings that they show a lot of times does not prove construction.
No.
I mean, even the maps I show the Starforts, like that doesn't prove anything other than like someone drew a map of it showing it like that. And I think that's pretty important, you know what I mean? But sure,
I
there's still in the back of my head, of course,
I think you're
whatever,
onto
but
something there.
you
I
know,
think it's just someone's interpretation of what it was, right? So, I
totally,
mean, we're at the mercy of the drawings, but the drawings are then an interpretation of something else. So, yeah, it's this telephone game that we play with history that it gets tricky, and that's why the
totally,
people that say I know are either lying or they're full of shit, because there are
totally,
very few people in this world that can say I know for certain about anything. So
totally.
that's my thing with it. Just keep questioning. Dude, Casey, this has been awesome, man. This was fun. This is the first time I've really done like a live, like deep dive kind of thing where we're going through the maps, and I liked it because I really understand San Francisco a lot better. So anybody that's listening, you have to get to either Spotify to watch this or go over to Patreon. It'll be free over there. You can go to patreon.com and check it out on the Great Deception feed. Because Casey brought some great photos and did an awesome job on the Google Maps. That's one thing I need to work on is my Google Maps skill. I suck at Google Earth.
And just in the last few months, I've dug in and I've gotten a little better. So that you'll get better if you just keep going for it.
Yeah. Any last words? Anything you want to say before we
Um,
get out of here?
dude, just thank you for having me on, and um, you know, we've had killer conversations, and dude, you do amazing work, and we've bounced off each other a bunch, and this has been awesome.
Oh, I love it,
Um,
man. This has been a while in the making because we've been
hell
we've
yeah,
been basically doing this episode on Instagram DMs, chatting back and forth for the last year. So
totally.
it was
So
cool to
yeah,
get down. And I definitely want to do a part 2 to this where we take a look at definitely the 15 fair and then anything else after that you want to look at. I'm
yeah,
down.
dude,
Whether we
there's
go,
tons.
we can look at California in general too if you want, because
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
intrigued by the old maps and love to hear your interpretation of all that shit too.
hell
So
yeah. No,
let's
I
do
mean,
that here in the near
I
future.
got I got tons and tons to talk about. Like we didn't even get into Adolf Sutro or any of this stuff. Like
Oh
I
yes.
we can go for days, you know.
Awesome. You're
And so
talking my
yeah,
language now, my man.
dude, let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going.
Excellent.
And
So
yeah,
where
just
where can people
hell
find
yeah.
your stuff, man?
On Instagram, it's Golden Gate Starfort Command,
Yep.
and we have a YouTube channel. We got some videos on there. Not many people watch them, so if you are out there and want to check out some videos, please do, because you know we were talking in the get-go, or maybe we didn't record this part, but it is a lot of work to do these, and I'm proud of making these videos. So I just want people to see them, you know. So
Yep.
go
And
check out my videos,
hey,
please.
all it takes is one, right? And that's what we said
Hell yeah.
before. If one of our videos or if one thing you say gets pushed on to another person and then passed on to another person, and think about it, it's that domino effect. And that's all we're trying to do here. I'm not trying to change anybody's opinion. I'm trying to open people's minds to discussion. And
Yeah,
and
let's
that's
join the
what
conversation.
that's what I love about you, man, because we can bounce crazy ideas off each other and not one of us is like, "Oh, you're a fucking retard. What's wrong with you?" No,
Yeah,
it's like,
totally.
"Okay, yeah, I don't know about that, but what about this?" And I think we need more of that, man. People are too quick to just come out with an insult because they don't agree with somebody rather than be like, "Okay." And I get it on my Instagram a lot. Like people comment on a post like, "Oh, this is retarded." And it's like, okay, well then what are you bringing to the conversation? If this is so stupid, your comment just brought it down even further. So
Totally.
now
Like you're
people,
retarded for fucking commenting on something you hate. Like that wasted energy. It's
yeah,
just, you
bring
know,
something to the discussion or don't show
totally.
up. Like that's the thing. Don't just be the little bitch that wants to throw your 2 cents in and giggle. Like contribute, be a human being, be a grown up and be able to have uncomfortable discussions because until we get there, this shit's just going to keep going on and on and on. And they're going to get away with keep burying stuff because people want to run around with wool over their eyes, believing that the government is here to save me. They're here to help, and it's like, guys, wake the fuck up. They're not here to help you. When have they ever helped you? When have they ever saved you? When has any government program improved your life?
No, they've only just killed people.
Kill people and suck your money, right? That's
Yep.
it. Where they're good at killing alphas and eating resources. So
Yep.
Casey, my man, this has been
Hell yeah.
great. Like I said, this is part one of multiple because
Yeah.
we
Let's
we
keep it
gotta
going.
we gotta get together again. So thank you, my friends.
Hell yeah.
Everyone, stay strong. Question everything.